going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I am your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, man, first and foremost, let me just say, I hope everybody that's listening here in the States or watching on YouTube or Spotify, I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend, because that's what's coming up as of this recording. I know I've got a great one planned. I'm going to 2 different Reds games this weekend. I don't know why I'm excited about that, because more than likely they're going to lose. But I'm going Friday night to see them play the Tigers, and then Saturday morning to see the end of that series. I'm sorry, Sunday morning to see the end of that series. And super excited because I've never been to a night game before in the MLB. So this will be my first one, and really looking forward to it, even though I have zero expectations that the Reds are actually going to do something. But regardless, I'm going to have a good time, and I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend. With that being said, it's not that time yet, because as of this day, right now this is being released, it is time to release episode 27 with Chelsea Connor. I was really happy to be able to get to talk to her because A, she's local, and this will be my first one talking to somebody locally here where I live. But not only that, somebody who's on the rise. So, yeah, it's going to be really cool to watch, especially as she keeps continuing to get better. And if she does end up going to the UFC like she says that she wants to in this episode, man, I'm really glad I got to get her now and show some love and support to somebody local who's out there trying to do the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, with enough of that being said, I am excited for this one. I hope everybody enjoys it. And also, not only that, if you're brand new to the show, please, by all means, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're watching or listening to this to, please subscribe. That's the best way you can support the show. And not only that, go ahead and take a look, see what I got for you, because I got a little bit of everything. I'm into a little bit of everything. So there's a good chance there's something else on this channel. If this is your first time here, you're going to find something else that you enjoy from somebody you didn't know that you would enjoy, or somebody who you did enjoy, but you didn't know I interviewed them. So check that out for me if you would. So anyway, enough of my babbling. Let's get a word from my sponsor and then to the episode with Chelsea Connor. Check it out. All right, everybody, it's time to stop and let you know about today's sponsor of the show, Crazy Martins in Piqua, Ohio, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to. Crazy Martins has provided their customers with quality products for over 20 years, from ashtrays to water pipes and everything in between. Stop in, check out their selection, and of course, check out their pinball machines. With over 20 pins to choose from, there is something for everyone. Crazy since 1996. I don't just say this about every place. I love going to Crazy Martins. I've always loved going to Crazy Martins ever since I was of age to go to Crazy Martins. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Me and my wife go there almost every Sunday to play pinball machines. It is one of the funnest spots in Ohio you could possibly find. It is in Piqua, Ohio. Check out their website at www.crazymartins.com. Hello. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of The Rose Show. As always, I'm your host, Jay. Who else but me? And today, I have got my first local guest on the show today. She is here in Piqua, Ohio, along with the Smile Back Training Center, which she is the owner, manager, and CEO of, and we'll get into that a little bit more. It is Tiny Take Chelsea Connor. Chelsea, my friend, how are we doing today?
I am doing excellent. How are you?
Oh, can't complain. Like we said a little bit off air, we were chatting about the time of year it is. It is nice outside. It's warm for the most part. And you being local, finally, hopefully from now on, the tornadoes that have been coming through our area won't kill us soon. So I can't complain too much, man. It's my favorite time of year. But anyway, so today, I kind of wanted to just have a conversation with you, a little bit about me and the reason why I wanted to have you on today, not only because you're local, but once upon a time in the early 2010s, I was heavy into MMA, heavy. Like I would watch around the same time everybody else, when it really exploded. I don't know how regional Frickers is for those who don't know what frickers it is a sports bar, kind of like a BW3s, kind of stuff like that. So they would show UFC fights there every single time it was on, and the place would be packed. And I became a super fan around that time. And I've always carried, I don't watch as much as I used to, but my love for that sport has carried with me all the time. I still pay attention. I still watch all the highlights. I still read all the results. So, I still got it in me, but at one point in time, it dominated my life. I was always a little bit too chicken shit to ever train or anything like that. But man, I enjoyed it. So when I saw you guys were doing things at the Pupil Center, which we'll get into that a little bit more here in a little bit, I thought, man, it'd be really cool to get her on. So I just kind of wanted to chat with you, and we'll go ahead and start and ask you a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Yeah, so in 2009, that's when I actually started fighting. So, like you said, in 2010, it started like kind of becoming kind of mainstream.
Mhm.
Nowadays everything, holy smokes, like MMA, the UFC, everything's so out there and it's so in everyone's faces. So it's like it's really cool to have been part of MMA for as long as I have been and seen like the evolution of everything. But yeah, when I got into it, I'll never forget my first fight when after weigh-ins I had a fan come up to me and he was like, "Hey, are you?" Because it was just me and another girl that was fighting on the card, and then the rest were guys, because girls really weren't doing it back then. Um, and he said, "So are you guys fighting in the cage, or like where's the swimming pool with the oil gonna be?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"What?" Like, no, we're doing what the dudes are doing. And yeah, but he was totally convinced. Like we were getting in our bikinis and gonna fight each other like they do at like the Foxy boxing type stuff. So it's been a journey, yeah. So that was my first MMA fight. That's where the fans were at with the girls fighting. And
yeah,
now it's just so like it's normal now for the girls to be in
yeah.
there and things like that. So it's really cool to have been, basically kind of like a such a like
Trailblazer.
a trailblazer. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the word that I
yeah,
was looking for. Yeah, being that trailblazer in the sport, and
yeah,
always never taken the shortcuts. I've always done it just being me. I do
yeah.
have an exciting fighting style, so that does help me. But I mean, I'm an attractive young lady. I feel like I could have went the other routes that other female MMA fighters have went of, taking my clothes off and going that route, and I've never chosen to do that. I've stuck to my guns and I've been who I am as a person, just been a good person. And it's
Yeah.
it's finally starting to pay off. It's been a long journey, and like I said, I could have been in the UFC way before now, but I've always thought to myself, when I have children, at that time I didn't have children, now I have two. I wanted my children to be proud and not embarrassed by their mom, like out there doing things that, like I said, especially when I was coming up back in 2009, it's what a lot of the female athletes thought they had to do, and
Yeah.
like I said, I never did it, and I'm proud. Like I said,
Yeah.
I could have fast tracked myself way sooner, but I think just having that respect for myself and never doing that has made it to where people just respect me a lot more in this sport than most.
Yeah, sure, that's fair. And to address 2 points that you just said, as far as the first off, the how far MMA has came. I think it was episode 13, somewhere around there. I had Ken Shamrock on, and
Uh-huh.
Ken Shamrock was talking about how once upon a time, they would have to change the venues literally the day before of the fights
Mhm.
because of protesters and politicians and everything like that. Now it's literally worldwide. They
Yeah.
go all over the place. So to see the evolution of the sport has absolutely been crazy, because I remember a time where it here in the States, it wasn't that long ago where you couldn't do it in New York. It was illegal
Yeah.
in New York. And it's so
Yes.
wild to think about stuff like that. And also what you were saying as far as, the evolution of women's, the women's side of the MMA. And back in my heyday as a fan, me and my then roommate, my roommate was actually the one that really got me into it. He was a super hardcore, and I became super hardcore as myself as a fan. And I would watch something called the Strike Force Challenger series. It was on every
Yes.
Saturday on Showtime, and it I saw because Strike Force at that time, this would have been 2010, 2011, somewhere around then, I think. Strike Force at that time was the only one on a national level that was allowing women to fight in the
Yep.
cage. Back then, Dana White was quoted with saying there will never be
Yeah.
women's fighting in the UFC, never, which was the first inclination anyone had to how much full of shit Dana White can be at the times. But
Yes.
but and don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of his. It's just funny.
Yeah.
You can go back and read all the things that he goes, "This will never happen," and then ta-da, it happened. But
Yeah.
one of the fights that I saw watching the Challenger series, I got to see live on TV Ronda Rousey's first fight, and I remember watching it and going, "This girl's got something here."
Hmm.
And I'm not saying like it was a revelation or anything. Anybody who watched her at an early time, could see that she was excellent. But she
Yeah.
was the first one I think that kind of opened me up to like, okay, it's not just two women, beating the shit out of each other, or like you said, in bikinis and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It was an actual sport. So, yeah, it definitely that made me. You can see it if you're listening to this on Amazon or Apple Podcasts or whatever it might be. You didn't quite see the cringe that was in my
Yeah.
face when she told the story of that, because that's crazy that a grown man would say stuff
Yeah.
like that to you.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
But did that happen? Has that happened frequently to the point where people are just like, make comments like that? Has that happened a lot to you?
Oh yeah, it's definitely been part of kind of every step of the way. Of early on in my career, it was very much, that's just what people expected out of the females. And it's like I said, I'm proud of myself for never lowering myself to those standards, and
Yeah.
just I've gained a lot of respect through the MMA community, and just other like-minded individuals, by
Yeah.
just not doing that. But yeah, that was something that was very very much so a thing that I've dealt with a lot throughout my career.
Yeah. Well, hey, much respect for you for doing that. Seriously. So, how did
Thank
you
you.
how did you get into the sport of MMA? Because, like I said, it was obviously my roommate at the time when I started watching got me into it. What was the first thing? When do you remember? Like, oh wow, this is awesome, dude. That moment, or did somebody bring you to an event? How did you get into being a fan of the sport?
So if I'm being honest, I was never really a fan of the sport. It wasn't that I
Okay.
like grew up watching it or anything like that. Um, I had an uncle who did karate, and me and my
Hmm.
sisters, we grew up on a farm. We beat the shit out of each other all the time. It was always a fight, like every single day. We're waking up fighting each other. Um, and I always begged my parents, like, to put me in karate or some sort of martial art, just so it would help me with like my self discipline. So I saw the confidence that my uncle had, and my dad, he was like a super hothead, always fighting in bars. I always heard about the stories, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed by him. Like, I don't want to be like him, but it was in me. Like, it's just
Yeah.
in me to be a fighter. And so I'm like, how can I figure this out to channel this in the right direction,
Yeah.
and so I don't end up like my dad. So I out of high school, my parents never would put me in anything to help that. I just ran cross country, track, I cheered as well. um and when I turned 18, I was planning on joining the Marine Corps, and I couldn't meet the Marine Corps' like height and weight standards, so I was overweight basically. And they wouldn't let me in. I tried for 6 months, couldn't do it. And so I was like, screw this, I'm just gonna go and find an MMA gym. And as soon as I walked into that MMA gym and got punched in the face the first time, I was I was hooked. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I loved it. And I'm not getting in trouble, like for fighting
Yeah.
someone, I'm not getting in trouble no more. So I just became so consumed. Unfortunately, the first gym that I was at was not the best gym, which back then it was hard to find gyms. That
Mm.
was 2009. So I was waitressing at the time, and I remember I would like do split shifts, and when I wasn't working, I was at the gym, constantly. Like I said, the my I've talked about this briefly in other interviews. It's something now at the age that I'm at, I'm actually the same exact age my first coach that I had was when I was 18. And it's
Mm.
now it's starting to all click. Like the things that happened to me. So basically, I was groomed at my first MMA gym. I didn't realize it back then, and it's taken me years to realize it. And now owning my own gym and having kids, that are 18 coming into my gym, I see things that were done to me that I would never do to these kids. So I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like that kind of sucks that that's what my first experience was with MMA. And so I had two fights back in 2009, 2010, and then like I said, I had to just mentally, there was too much stuff going on that wasn't okay. And I stepped away from MMA, had a kid, and got married, did all that. And then I had always like in those 4 year that 4 year like layoff, I was training at home doing things. I was trying to get my husband, who's now my ex-husband, um, to train with me. He was in the Marine Corps. So I was trying to like get him to do it with me. He had no desire to do it. He did not like me doing it. So it kind of sucked for me. But then he had gotten out of the Marine Corps. We had moved back to Ohio, and he was just dealing with a lot of stuff mentally, being just super depressed and things. And I knew for my mental health, I had to get back into a gym. And he said, go ahead, do whatever. Our marriage, we ended on pretty civil terms and everything, but it was time for us. We had started dating back in the 7th grade, so we were just kids, yeah, that that grew up and thought we just needed to control each other basically, and then it just didn't work that way. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but obviously I'm here now, and I got back into training, and then it was honestly just to lose some baby weight. I didn't even know if I really wanted to fight again. I just knew I loved the training side of things. And then my coach, who's now my husband now, he was very adamant, like, hey, you could go pro with this. And I'm like, you're freaking crazy. Like, and it was still, that was in like 2014. And I was still like not really watching the UFC or anything like that. I like getting punched in the face. I like being able to punch someone, like that was it. That was all I was doing it for. It wasn't no like fame or fortune or anything like that. I just enjoyed fighting. And when he just took and like actually believed in me, and
Yeah.
that was something that like just meant a lot to me. And I'm like, I'm gonna just do it and make you proud, or shut you up and let you know, like, it was kind of like a something, along those lines. And it stuck, and then I started actually believing in myself, and that's when we created a monster, is when I actually started believing in myself and what I was or what I was capable of.
Yeah, sure. Um, Sidebar, how tall are you?
I'm 5'1".
How much do you weigh right now?
Well, right now I'm 130 pounds, but I fight at 115.
Okay, okay. So I just want to go all the way back to the beginning where I said I was too much of a bitch to get in there, and you have said multiple times that you enjoy getting punched in the face. I'm 6'3", 220 pounds, and you're making me. I'm two of you, and you're.
Yeah.
But that's awesome though, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the sport so much, and as being a spectator, there's no pain, but
Mhm.
to see the people who are passionate about it is just
Yeah.
it's so cool to me. So you brought up the fact that you now own your own gym. The gym's called Smileback Training Center. That's a very unique name. Is there a story behind that name of your gym?
Yeah, absolutely there is. First we wanted to call it X Factor Fitness. The and when we filed for the LLC, that name was already taken. So then we were going through my social media and I'm like, okay, what hashtags do I use? And I've always used smile back as a basically smile back to me is like a middle finger to everyone that said that I couldn't do it.
Sure.
That's what smile
Yeah.
back means. And there's a Mac Miller song that's called Smile Back, and that's like I keep on telling everyone like that's my walkout song when I get to the UFC. I'm not using it until I get to the UFC, but when I get to the UFC, it's Smile Back by Mac Miller the entire time. Because that's just how I've lived my life. There's been a lot of I guess you could consider haters or whatever. People that want to see me fail have made it freaking hard as hell for me to get to where I'm at. And all I do is smile back at you. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on
Yeah.
being me. I'm going to keep on being the good person that I am, genuine with what I do. And either you like me or you hate me. And I'm totally fine with you hating me, because if you hate me for being who I am, then you're not a good person and you don't
Yeah.
deserve a spot in my life. So yeah, smile back definitely. There's a little there's a little sentence underneath with
Yeah.
middle fingers in there for everyone that
Yeah.
has tried to mess up what I've been doing.
Yeah. And there is, and you can, being from this area, you totally understand what I'm saying here. Where we live, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, if you attempt to, it's always been that way. Now I grew up in Troy. I
Yeah.
was born
Oh,
and
okay.
raised in Troy, and
Okay.
I ended up moving to Piqua about 10 years ago with my now wife. Um, Troy was really bad for anything you wanted to do. There
Mhm.
was always somebody there to tell you how much you sucked, and
No.
people
Yep.
talking behind your back. And this entire area is that way. For those who
Yeah.
don't know, Troy's 15 minutes south from us. I guess I should have pointed that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done music my entire life ever since I was a
Mhm.
kid. There's always people telling me, I remember 10 years ago I had somebody post a meme and didn't think I was going to see it, and it said something about like, which this is funny. I think it's hilarious. It said, if you ever feel bad about yourself, remember somebody from your hometown is still trying to be a local rapper. And they tagged someone else, didn't think I was going to see it, and it literally said, "Oh yeah, that's kind of sounds like that G guy that we know." And I'm just
Oh.
like, where the fuck? And I've always been cool with this kid. Like, I've never insulted him. We were friends in high school. Just out of nowhere, he made this post. I'm like, why are you
Yeah.
coming at me, dog? Like, you know what I'm saying? But that was enough. So now you can say it all you want. I got clear passes on both sides of me right
Yeah.
now. So you can say that all you want now. You show my credentials. You know what I'm saying? That's why I
Yep.
hate you. To remind the
Yes.
motherfucker. To remind the
Abs-
motherfucker. Yes, you told me I couldn't, but
yep.
yes, I did. When I
Yep.
said I was going to start this podcast, everybody was like, "Oh, look, another podcast." Well, guess what? I've
Mhm.
already checked off. I think at this point we're hovering around 30. At this point, I've talked to some of my idols I've grown up my entire
Yeah.
life listening to. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Absolutely.
and I think that's a good life lesson for anyone. Because granted, like I said at the beginning of this rant, in our area it's very rampant, but you can
Yeah.
use that as motivation to do
Mhm.
better for yourself. So many
Yes.
people are like, well, they don't. Who cares if they like? Who cares
Yeah.
if they doubt you? Prove them wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is a
Yes.
perfect message. That is an absolute
Ye-
perfect message. So through your time, has there been any specific fights to stick out in your head? Any challenges or anything you didn't foresee? Just throughout your overall fighting career, is there anything that really sticks out, whether an important moment, whatever it might be?
Yeah, so I have 3 of them actually. My very last amateur fight, I had I had torn my bicep and labrum.
Mm,
And I had a surgery, got it fixed, and then it was my last amateur fight. And I remember like having so much pressure on myself, because I knew it was my last amateur fight and I had to go pro after that because we were struggling to get me fights. at the amateur division. So I was like, shit, I have to turn pro after this. And is my shoulder going to hold up? So I remember just the nerves that I had that have never been there. I'm not a nervous person when it comes to fighting because I just love it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what happens when I'm in there. I just want to be entertaining. You know, I just want the fans to get what they want when they watch me fight, whether I get my ass kicked or if I beat the shit out of someone. Like, I want you to be entertained. So um going into that fight, I was so freaking nervous because I thought, oh my god, what if I'm not what I've always been, you know?
Yeah.
And I was exactly what I've always been. It went well. We turned pro, and my third professional fight, this is the other one that like really stands out in my head, that was like a monument, what's, I can't say the word right now that I'm trying to say.
Monumental.
Yes,
Monumental.
yes,
Yes.
exactly.
I
So
got
I
you back.
got thank you. um I got offered to fight for King of the Cage's world title.
Okay. Oh
My
yeah.
third professional fight. Yeah, yeah. And back in the day, back during that time, King of the Cage was like
Oh
upper
yeah. Oh yeah.
echelon, you know,
Hmm.
when it came to the different levels of fighting.
A lot of people
And
came from there as well. I think
yes,
King of the
Ronda
Cage does
Rousey.
not. Yes, they do not get the credit for all the now
Yes.
legends that have came through that system. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So I get offered this world title shot. It's my third professional fight. I'm not supposed to beat this girl at all. We go into it. It went the distance. It's on YouTube. Everyone can tune into it, watch it. I'm told every time that someone watches it, like, you got robbed.
Yeah.
And I did. I got robbed in that fight. They gave it to her. It was so freaking hard for me. I had a great performance. It wasn't like I went out and shit the bed or embarrassed myself or anything like
Yeah.
that. I proved like, hey, I can hang with the top of the top in that fight. And but it crushed me to know that, like, people, um the people that I'm trusting, the judges, all
Yeah.
these people, they don't got my back like I got their back. Like, here I'm doing this because, like, I love it. And I didn't feel that in return. So that hurt really bad. I went into like real bad depression. I dreaded my hair up because I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this shit no more. And I knew if I dreaded my hair up, I wouldn't train like I used to, because I didn't want to have the smelly dreads. So, like, that's why I did it. I was like, I'm gonna have another kid. I'm gonna take a break from fighting. I need to clear my head. I need to find myself outside of fighting. So I had another kid. Uh and we actually had gotten rid of our gym, and was just kind of living life. I was doing some training, but not like I was, like
Yeah.
training, a few times a week versus multiple times a day. I trained 6 to 8 hours a day. And going from that schedule to training 2 3 times a week was way different. But it helped me be able to just like go through some counseling, get my head wrapped around like, hey, it's okay that happened.
Yeah.
So after that moment there, I took another 4 years off, 4 5 year off, 5 year layoff. And we had a kid actually move in with us, Jarrell Lewis. He plays for the University of Dayton. He's a football player, and he moved in with us. We started during COVID, actually, and we helped him get his scholarship and everything to go play college football. And working out with him, I honestly started thinking about possibly joining like a all female league football team, but
Hmm.
the closest one was like 4 hours away. So I was like, man, that's just not realistic with kids. I had, at
Sure.
that time, my son was 2, like there's no way, I was very adamant about nursing him as long as I could. So I'm juggling, all that stuff that I'm just like, holy smokes, I can't do that. So I'm like, all right, it's time to start punching people in the face again. And so we start we had a little gym at our house that we started putting together, and we started getting more and more training partners coming. Um, and so we open up a little small tiny gym, and I get this offer to fight Eleni Pereira on LFA's card down in Kentucky, who Eleni Pereira is Alex Pereira's little sister.
Okay.
And I'm crazy. I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. What if I go in and I get my ass kicked? Like, dude, cool, you beat up a girl and no disrespect to Eleni, she's incredible. I love her to death.
Yeah.
But like, if I get my ass kicked, like, who's gonna be upset about that? You just beat up a
Right.
mom,
Yeah.
that
Right.
took a 4 5, I can't even remember how long. That's how hard she hit me. I can't remember. No, I'm just kidding.
Just,
She does hit really fucking hard though. Um, Nonetheless, coming off of a layoff like that, it just showed my character, who I
yeah.
am. Like, hey, I'm down to fight whoever. I fought it at 125 pounds because I thought, like, oh yeah, I'm thick enough to fight these 125ers. I'm not. Like, honestly, I could fight at 105. But there ain't a division really, unless I go over to like 1FC or something, and that's, over in China.
Right.
So I'm like, man, I need to be a 115er after I fought Eleni Pereira. So I take the fight with Eleni. I get my ass kicked. I make it all 3 rounds with her. That was a win for me. She didn't
Yes.
knock me
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So I was proud of myself, and my eye was so, like, it was hanging off of my face. It was huge. And my husband and I are driving back from Kentucky that night because the very next day we had our own fight show that we had to get
Mm.
back in time for all of our fighters. And I remember being in that car, and I'm just like, I'm taking pain pills. I'm just trying to get through, like, getting my ass home. And I'm like, I tell my husband, I'm like, hey, like, we're getting back. That's not what I'm going out on. I'm not going to be known
Yeah.
as, like, she just got her ass kicked. She ain't what she thought she was, and things like that. Like, I'll get back to 115. I'm gonna wreck bitches, like that's where I was at. And I told him, I said, man, I'll be 60 years old. You can wheel me out in my fucking wheelchair and throw me in that cage, and I'll fight, like, that's what I wanted to do. And so he was like, all right, we're 100% in. And ever since that fight, that fight there was the most impactful, pivotal point of my MMA career, was get my ass kicked by Eleni. It made, it checked me. It made me realize, like, dude, you weren't being serious with your training. I was trying to juggle the business side, the mom side, still live a somewhat normal life. I was still training quite a bit, but not like I needed to be fighting someone at that level. And I was just like, yeah, fuck that. We're gonna get serious with it again. And so now here we are, and I'm like, all right, we're getting in the UFC by the end of this year, So it's that was definitely, those 3 fights were my most, like, impactful fights.
So let me ask you this. And this isn't anything that I've had in my mind, so it might not come out the way I'm wanting. But I've been a Reds fan. Fuck. I'm drinking out of a Reds cup and I'm
Oh,
wearing a Reds jersey. And I've got
okay.
big Reds fan here. So something that is going on in MLB is everybody is either super excited or super pissed that machine umpires are going to be a thing within the next 2 years.
Oh,
I am
wow.
I am on I am on the side of absolutely let's do it,
Mm-hmm.
because I am so tired of watching umpires call a strike when it's very clearly a ball, or a ball when it's very clearly a strike. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm beyond that. That changes the outcome of games more times
Mm-hmm.
than not. Then the umpiring is getting worse every year. I am a
Yeah.
big advocate. Bring on the machine. We have the technology. We can see the strike zone
Yeah.
live on television. or live at the stadium, they know exactly where it is the second that pitch is thrown. Okay.
Yeah.
So why are we keeping the human element in just because it's the human element? I don't know. Now I bring that up to ask you this, going back to the fight you were robbed of, because I've
Mm-hmm.
seen that all the time. MMA judges get it just happened. We're talking right now.
Yeah.
Last night, Sean Strickland, regardless
Mm-hmm.
of what you think about him or not, whatever it is,
Yeah.
what it is. Sean Strickland almost had that happen to him last night, where it was very
Yep.
clear he was the winner, but one judge, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
said, no, he's not.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Would
watched
you?
it. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you being on the inside, I guess you could
Mm-hmm.
say, is there any kind of uproar or any kind of movement or anything like that for from the fighter aspect to go, hey, let's fix this judging system somehow? Because hey, as soon as the round's over, we know how many times you got hit. We know how many times you got punched. We know how many times you got kicked. We know how many times you landed a punch. We know how many times you missed a punch. How do we know all this? Because there's a computer calculating it.
Yeah.
Is there any push from the inside to go, hey, we have this technology, let's start using it? Or is it complete silence or anything like that at all?
Wow. This is the first time that I've ever heard anyone even like give that as an idea. I think that's
Okay.
incredible. Holy smokes. That would solve, like you said last night, and there was another one. Was it the very first? Yeah, that the first fight on the main card. Or no, the last fight of the preliminary card. Uh oh my goodness, I can't remember the names, but it ended up in a split decision, and it was not a split decision win.
Yeah.
The other guy totally dominated. But yeah, that would make everything so much easier, and everyone's life, I feel like, so much easier. And that's fair, like yeah, no, I've never even heard anyone even think of that as an idea, honestly, for
Well,
MMA.
hey, you
But I
you
think that
heard
would
it
be
here
amazing.
first. You heard it here first on the Row Show. If this
Yes.
happens, I'm taking credit for it. Damn it. You know, I
I'll
mean,
always
I've
give you
seen
a
it.
shout out
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
I've seen it happen so many times where it's just
Yeah.
such an obvious call, and
Hmm.
two out of three guys can fuck it up, and it
Yeah.
makes you wonder. And I'm not trying to, fuck it, I'll say it anyway because I'm just an outsider. There's times where it's like, I wonder who he owed money to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yep.
the perspective. It's just I don't know,
Hmm.
understand. And the fact that you're saying it's the first time you've ever heard it blows my mind because
Yeah.
why would people be pushing for stuff like this? I get
Right.
so tired of hearing people talk about the human element. Why are we
Yeah.
accepting error?
Yeah.
Because it's a human and not a machine.
Right.
If you won, you won.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
lost, you lost. I
Yeah.
think that's the perspective of the fan and not the person who's getting screwed. I mean, we're just getting to
Yeah.
the point now where instant replay and all sports are starting to become a thing. We've had
Yeah.
instant replay since the late 90s. What are we doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. My mind, like, my mind's blown right now because yeah, you're totally right. I don't know why I've not thought about that. Like it would have saved me from stepping
Yeah.
away from MMA, the way that I did.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
yeah,
On that point. Because I want everybody to, if you're watching this right now, go back and listen. If you're a human element defender, go back and
mm-hmm,
listen to what Chelsea just said about her getting robbed and how it affected her life. Now, granted, at the end of the day,
yeah,
it worked out for the
yeah,
best.
yeah, it did.
However, it's not just the human element. You're
Right.
affecting people's careers. You're
Yes.
affecting people's mental health. You're
Yeah.
affecting people's literal lives by these human element decisions. So,
Yeah.
and it is what it is. But anyway,
Yeah.
off my soapbox. So how did you guys get involved with doing things with now? Okay, I should explain this. Here locally, there's an old mall for those who aren't where we live, obviously, which is quite a lot. There's an old mall that has been converted recently to what is known as the Pickwa Center. It used to be when we were younger, it was a thriving mall. Now, obviously, and like all malls across the entire country, probably the world, it's just not a thing anymore. That kind of shopping just isn't. doable in a town like you or me live in.
Yep.
So now these developers have started to do other things like bring in big jumpy this jumpy house place called the Hero Day, which is
Yes.
gigantic. Honestly, you can allow adults to get in this place and it
Yeah,
probably would
I've
work.
jumped.
Well, I mean, tiny tank, yeah,
Yeah.
you could. I'm big me, my ass, don't let me jump in that thing. But so that they're doing stuff like that there, and as I stated, they're holding fights there. How did you guys get hooked up with the Pickwa Center and all that?
So they reached out to us. We
Okay.
were so my husband owns Endless Ink Tattooing here in Piqua,
Okay.
and we had our gym right next to that, and it was 1,200 square foot. Like we outgrew it very quickly, and
Mm,
social media. I'm posting. Our classes are full. Sorry, we can't take no more clients. And so the Piqua Center people saw it, and they reached out to us. And we were like,
mm,
absolutely not. We went out and we were like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Like we'll
yeah.
humor you. We'll come out and talk with you. And we went out, we talked, and we were like, oh shit. Like they offered us a really like they actually wanted to do something and make it successful. As you
Yeah.
know, growing up in the Piqua area, there's a lot of things that Piqua does that just don't make sense.
Oh,
um,
yeah, I know. Mm,
so it was making sense. And we're like, holy shit, you're not trying to screw us over? Because
right.
we had talked to the mall people before they had switched owners before we opened up our small location. We had went out and talked to those mall people, and it was like, we were being told by everyone in there, like, do not do it. Some fishy stuff's going on.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, we're not doing it. So when they reached out again, obviously we didn't know the owners had switched. We were like, yeah, whatever. We'll come out. I guess we'll waste our time. We'll waste your time. We'll see. And then we were like, wow, this actually could work. We see that you want to help us. We'll help you type thing. And that's how it materialized. And they had actually had a different spot that we were gonna be in that they were remodeling. They did all the remodeling. They've been amazing to work with.
Yeah.
And then they got another space rented out that had like tow motors, and we were going to have to use communal bathrooms. So it was a liability to have us in that spot. So they actually moved us to the inside. So we would have had like an exterior entrance where the old Sears used to be.
Yeah.
I know you know
Hmm.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Other
Right.
people
Yeah.
probably don't.
Yeah.
But they did that as like their industrial side, and then where you can still walk through the mall as a human, you can walk through.
Yeah.
They actually moved us inside there, which we were like, we didn't know whether that was going to work well, just because it's a gym, it's loud, but they were able to close everything off. We don't bother other tenants, things like that. And it's been amazing. Like it's
Yeah.
been really awesome. And I encourage any businesses here in Piqua that want something, like want a new location, check out the Piqua Center, man. They're doing really big things. And they want to see your business succeed. They're not trying to screw you over or anything like that. Like they'll help you,
Yeah.
and it's been amazing working with them.
Yeah. And I apologize to anybody who's a part of the national audience when it comes to this show, but we're going to talk a little bit local here just because I don't get a chance to do this very
Yeah.
often. And I've had 30 episodes. If you want to go back and hear just random bullshit, I understand. But with that being said, yeah, I have memories of that mall, like you said, growing up in this
Mhm.
area, like just going there on a Friday and hanging out because it was
Yeah.
packed. And to see it in the last 10 years just sit there and be decrepit, I go in quite a bit just to get like, judge me if you want, that's fine. The SC collectible spot, I get all my comics
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Most of my comics. There's other spots in Dayton I get them at, but I always try to go in there to support local if I can, and to
Yeah.
see it just kind of just be a dead mall has been really
Hmm.
tough to watch. And as you said, Pequa's government doesn't really do a whole lot to help anyone. I would know more than I don't know if you ever heard the name Watch Piqua, but I was the one that
Yes.
was in control of Watch
Okay.
Piqua. I was
Yeah.
the one that yeah, I
Yes.
was the one that went after the government for 3 years
Hmm.
straight and made their life a living hell.
Yeah.
So they're no friend of mine for the most part, and I'm really not any friend of theirs. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I know all about they don't do a
Mhm.
whole lot, haven't in the past, done a whole lot to help people out. But as you said, the owners of the Pickwa Center, I know firsthand just watching them, going in there weekly, seeing what you guys have done in there, which obviously is how I got hip to you, was going in there and seeing some of these fights and seeing some of the seeing. I haven't been to any fight, let me make that clear, but I've
Yeah.
seen pictures being posted, promo posters, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, this could actually start, to turn this around, because with us being the center in this area, us being
Yeah.
Pickwa, being a center in this area for really spearheading the medical marijuana and now soon to
Hmm.
be recreational marijuana. We've got 2 stores ready to rock. As soon as
Yeah.
they legalize it here, they're going to be going.
Yep.
What better way to bring the upbringing of this town and bring some tax dollars into this town
Yeah.
with having that on one side of the highway, and then boom,
Hmm.
this other piece of property, bringing more life
Yes.
into it. It's going to do a lot. So I would like to say as well, if you are local in this area, even Dayton, whatever, it doesn't matter where you're watching from, if you are in our area and you're looking for a place to expand, absolutely. As we wind down here, we're getting close to the hour mark, and that's usually where I call it quits. um is there is there any advice for now? And granted, we talked about this earlier. As far as when it comes to women's MMA, we've gone leaps and bounds above where it was at one point in time.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's going to be some challenges in any male-dominated sport, whether it be
Mhm.
MMA, professional wrestling, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. If there's more men than women, there's going to be some
Mhm.
challenges. Is there any advice you would like to give any woman out there who might be watching, or young girl who might be watching this, that wants to get in but doesn't really know how, or any life advice to how to get going? Is there anything you would like to say to any person that's thinking about getting in but is on the fence?
100%. One, do it for yourself. Don't do it because your boyfriend's doing it or something else. Do it for yourself. Understand like the self-confidence it's going to give you. The value that you'll find in yourself if you are able to do it just for you. And remember to respect yourself. Don't take your clothes off. You do not have to do it that way. You can freaking do it the right way. Find someone that's going
Yeah.
to support you, and give you that right advice, and don't sell yourself short. Don't go down the path that a lot of other female athletes have felt like they've had to. They don't. It's nothing against them. They felt like that was their only way. So my biggest thing is yeah, keep your clothes on, ladies. Don't take and think that you got to do it in a freaking uh swimming pool with freaking baby oil in there.
Yeah.
Like you can get in there and do it, as long as you respect yourself and earn the respect of your peers. Work freaking hard. Don't be looking for the shortcuts. Don't be scared to go with the guys. Like, understand there, if you're in a gym with guys, find the guys that are going to help support you and bring you up, not beat the shit out of you. Obviously they're men, they can do that. um but find the people that are going to support you, and just respect yourself. At the end of the day, respect yourself. Don't devalue who you are, and take pride in being a freaking strong ass woman.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I'm going to go ahead and turn the last couple of minutes over to you. If there's any social media, website plugs you would like to do, I'll go ahead and give the floor to you. But before I do, I just want to say, uh, to to see somebody local do it like you have, man, it's so fucking cool to see. So much props and
Thank you.
much respect to you. I'm sure. Uh, You'll see me at an event sooner than later, seeing as it is almost impossible to get me out of this house. But since you're like right down the street, there's
Yeah.
really no reason why I can't. So we'll meet soon. But I just wanted to say I really respect what you do and have a
Thank
lot
you.
of admiration. And floor is yours.
As far as social media, follow me on Chelsea Connor MMA on Instagram, and then my personal page is Chelsea Connor on Facebook. I post all my stuff on there. You guys can stay up with all my fighting, and then obviously my gym, Smileback Training Center. Go ahead and hit that up, and show me some love, guys. It takes an army to get where I've been. It takes a lot of support, so I appreciate anyone that's gonna hop on there. Give it a like, give it a love, give it a share.
Awesome. And don't forget when you get to the UFC to tell Dana White my idea about the automated refereeing system.
I
Okay.
am. No, I'm starting to advocate that now.
Thanks, Chelsea. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.